Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Omar Gomez. I'm the SHPE Austin president this year, and it's been a very challenging, unique year. I'm sure everyone is aware of that, and but we've done a very good job of keeping engagement up with our membership, bringing quality events such as this one today. So who is SHPE Austin? SHPE Austin, we've been around for 38 years. We were founded back in 1982. Throughout the years, we've developed a proud history of excellence in community involvement. We're constantly growing in the Austin area, such as the companies, as they come in, we try to tap into them and establish a relationship with them. We provide professional development, STEM outreach events, and networking opportunities for our members. Also, one thing that I'm very proud of is we've been awarding actually three $1,000 scholarships since 1994. And it wasn't until recently in 2016 that we bump it up to 4. So instead of 3, 4. So we've been given 4 $1,000 scholarships. And here you can see some pictures of our couple of the events that we had. Some of our volunteers and officers and some of the kiddos there at Salud Gigante Engineering. I think that was at the Home Away office, one of our partners, which is SHPE now. All right.
So once again, thank you so much to Jacobs and Enlace, their Latino network, for sponsoring this webinar. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Arthur Vidales, who's going to present on behalf of Jacobs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Arthur Vidales. Just a little background. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces on here. I actually went to the University of Texas at Austin and graduated there with a civil engineering degree in 2012. And was a member of SHPE then. I've been with Jacobs about 8.5 years, and I am a bridge engineer out of the Dallas office. So I'm glad to be here. If you can go on to the next slide. So our purpose, a year ago, we rebranded as a company, and I think that the new brand kind of fits Jacobs as a whole better than the old one. So challenging today, reinventing tomorrow is our new branding. And really it's just about our unique approach to projects and coming up with innovative solutions to our clients' needs. Next one. Our values, like I said, we do things right, we challenge the accepted, we aim higher, and we live inclusion. Just a little summary about our company. We're in 40+ countries. We have over 55,000 employees, 400 offices all over the world. And here's just the world map of all the geographic locations where Jacobs has an office. It's pretty incredible. Look, we need to get back into Latino America for sure. So the markets that we serve, I know when I was in school, I thought of Jacobs as a company that did oil and gas only. Everybody should know we actually are not in the energy and oil and gas business anymore, but we do a lot in environmental, transportation, water, environment, advanced facilities. We're a growing partner, or a growing company in cybersecurity, R&D, and nuclear. So next slide. All of these markets are split up into 2 branches per se. It's critical mission solutions. So within critical mission solutions, you have advanced engineering, R&D, mission solutions, aerospace and technology, and our nuclear division. We also have people and places solutions, which has buildings, transportation, which is the sector that I'm involved in, advanced facilities, global environmental solutions, water, and aviation. Here's just a little bit about our rankings. So I don't want to brag too much about us, but we're ranked #1 most admired company. We're #1 top 500 design firms, top 225 international design firms, #1 in aerospace. I'll throw a plug in there for bridge. We're #2 in bridge. And something that I'm really proud about us at Jacobs, we have a very good culture here. This started many years back with our Beyond Zero culture having to do with safety. And we have definitely grown from that. So now we have a sustainability culture, sustainability program, an inclusive network as well. So this is just a summary of all of the initiatives culture-wise that we have. Part of the inclusion, we have a vast amount of employee networks. So I don't want to go through all of these, but We've got a network for Latinos, for Black employees, for our LGBTQI employees, veterans, women's network. And so these networks are not just for the people that they represent, but it's for everybody. And there's a lot of work that goes on between working together with the networks. I'm actually the co-chair of Enlace, and we're very, very thankful and lucky to be participating with SHPE Austin. A little bit about Enlace, creating links in a global company. Our vision: together we empower the Latinx talent to contribute to our company's profitable growth strategy while fostering leadership, community involvement, diversity, and cultural pride. Our mission: creating links within the company, clients, and our community as well. So just a little bit about the things that we've done. So this year, as Omar mentioned, has been a really weird, crazy year. So we've focused heavily on virtual STEM activities. We have participated in a lot of STEM activities within the company, but also with school districts outside. And it's been a great hit. It's been a good program. I do want to point out that we also participated in the SHPE National Convention in October, and that went over really well. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions about Jacobs, please reach out to Lisette, myself, or Paula, and look forward to this panel.
Thanks so much, Arthur. And thanks again to Jacobs for helping us and sponsoring this and always supporting SHPE. Now we're going to move on to welcome our lovely panelists.
Yes, we're going to start with Andrea. She currently works at Texas A&M University, which I'm an alumni, and I see Brian on here. So we are so happy to have you on our side of the court. She has a background in civil engineering, and I'm also an industrial engineer. So she also has a background in that. She did graduate from the University of Texas in Austin, but we forgive you. And she has experience in structural engineering at KBR and HCR. So thank you, Andrea, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And next, we do have Paula Silva. Her educational background started in Monterrey, Mexico, and then Tecnológico as a mechanical and structural and agriculture engineer. And we're so glad you're part of Jacobs and are supporting, this webinar as a part of Enlace. Paula does have a background in extensive water system modeling and in the US and in Latin America. So once again, thank you, Paula, for joining us. And lastly, we have Raquel.
Last but not least, Raquel Tamez currently serves as the CEO of SHPE. If you haven't heard, prior to SHPE, she was the Chief Legal Officer, General Counsel, and SVP of Legal for Source America, a nonprofit. She's also been recognized across all aspects. In 2015, she was voted one of 25 of the most influential Hispanic lawyers by Leading Latinos magazine. And recently, in 2020, she received the Ogilvie Award from the Mexican government for her work in empowering Hispanic communities abroad. Some of her expertise include national nonprofit management, global litigation, corporate counsel, board affairs, and mergers. And she went to the University of Texas at Austin, where she studied government business in Spanish and went to law school at St. Mary's University. We are so thrilled to have you, Raquel. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go ahead and start. So to all the panelists, Andrea, Paula, and Raquel, tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, background, and anything else that we missed or you want to share with the audience. We'll start with you, Andrea.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. Also, it's an honor to represent both the University of Texas at Austin and Texas A&M University. It's not very common that you have an individual who has been able to cross the borders at both institutions, but I'm one of those. So again, I'm very proud to represent both institutions. I guess a little bit of background about myself. I was originally born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. As you heard, I started my career as a structural engineer. I earned my bachelor's in civil engineering from UT Austin. I basically spent the first 6 years of my career as a structural engineer. I earned my PE license, and at that stage really got to the point where I was sort of seeking new opportunities and new new opportunities to potentially get engaged in work that I was, more passionate about. And as a result, my career kind of evolved, and I had an opportunity to shift back over to the University of Texas at Austin and serve as the director for the Equal Opportunity and Engineering program. So again, went from engineering back into the higher education sector. And so far I've spent about 20 years in the higher education sector. And over the years, I've evolved from, doing administrative work as well as serving as a researcher. So in addition to having my engineering degrees in civil and industrial, I've also got a master's in public policy and a PhD in engineering education. So when it comes to my research is all focused on ways that we can continue to broaden participation in STEM for students who come from groups historically underrepresented in the field. So that's a little bit about myself.
That's awesome. Paula, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hola. I'm very happy to be here with you today, especially because I feel that I can provide you with some non-Texas experience since all of the audience here is from Texas. And a little bit about me. I am originally from Mexico. I moved to the US 15 years ago and started working for then CH2M and now Jacobs. And I need to recognize that it's been until the last few years that I have assumed more the role of a leader and acknowledge the impact that I can have to women in STEM. And I still am not comfortable speaking about myself. And I am rehearsing and trying to show my vulnerabilities to all of you also, because that makes the connection. And that is how you can really help other people. So in my journey, I started studying mechanical engineering in Mexico. I was the only woman in my class. And then I worked for a few years, and then I went to the Netherlands to study my master in hydraulic engineer. I fell in love with water, and I saw this as my calling to really help provide engineering and solutions to the challenges that the providing water to people have. And so that's what I've been working, and I have been very, very lucky to find a job where I can really put into practice all my knowledge in hydraulics. And I do integrated water sources management. That is my passion. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I started also getting engaged with networks and how I can improve the community we live in. So I was the former chair of Enlace until last year, and I'm currently part of a program that is called Homeward Bound. That is a leadership program for women in STEM from all over the world, and it's a year-long program, and eventually we will take on a journey to Antarctica for a 3 weeks. So that is a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Paula. You're definitely someone I look up to within Jacob, so I'm happy you're here with us.
Thank you.
Raquel, you wanna go next?
Sure, thank you. And wow, I'm so impressed with Andrea and Paula. First, I want to say thank you to SHPE Austin and Jacobs, the sponsor for today's panel. They participated at the convention, and I had the privilege of interviewing one of the executives, Ken Gilmartin, and it was by far one of the best interviews and panels I've ever experienced in my very long career. And so I'm really impressed with Jacobs and all of you that are there, and you're very fortunate to work for such an impressive company. As far as my background, I currently serve as the CEO of SHPE, and I've been in my role for 3.5 years. And to come and serve in this way was one of the best decisions that I've made in my life. It was not an easy decision to give up my legal practice. I am a lawyer, and was a trial lawyer in particular and litigator. Prior to SHPE, I was the general counsel's chief legal officer for another nonprofit, and its mission was all about the creation of employment opportunities for persons with significant disabilities. But most of my legal career was managing global litigation in technology outsourcing. I'm the youngest daughter of 6. My parents are from Monterrey. My cousins played football americano in El Tec, and one of my cousins was one of the football coaches there. My parents immigrated to Texas, to Houston in particular, decades ago. Just to give you some perspective, my dad is 97 and my mom is 90, and they have been together almost 70 years. So I'm very fortunate to have my parents, but we grew up in the hood, grew up in El Barrio in Houston, Texas. And when my parents told me there wasn't money to send me off to school, I continued to apply myself and got a full ride to the University of Texas at Austin, as well as Texas A&M, but I went to UT. So. But here I am. If I had to summarize my career and my life, I'm either on a mission or I'm a part of a mission. So started my legal career as a trial lawyer for the U.S. Department of Labor, as a prosecutor, really defending the rights of employees and workers. And then I went in-house counsel for Mary Kay Cosmetics. And really that was empowering women all over the world. And all of my legal career, I've always advocated for women lawyers and Latina lawyers in particular. And so, like I mentioned, the privilege and honor of serving the Hispanic community as the CEO of SHPE is one of the best decisions that I've made. It is not easy. And I'm happy to talk to you about that. It's very lonely, actually, and I'm happy to talk about that too. But I'm just really excited to be here and having the conversation with you.
Thanks so much. We're so happy to have you, Raquel.
Thank you. And the next question is for Paula and Raquel. What has been your biggest motivation in your career or life, and what keeps you going every day?
Go for it, Paula.
Okay, well, I'm very happy to learn that we have something in common, Raquel. So that is a really interesting question, and it really got me thinking about the motivation, and to really be honest, what is really, I mean, we all like to say that, my biggest motivation is that I would like to change the world and make it a better place. But in reality, the constant I found across my life of what keeps me going is a huge, deep sense of responsibility. And that is probably linked to the values that I was raised with from my family in Mexico. I'm one of 4 siblings, and my mom is a very strong woman, and living in Mexico, you can really tell the difference unfortunately, the different levels of opportunities that we have within our population, access to education, and different things that it's not for everybody, unfortunately. So I was raised with that message that we have a huge responsibility to give back to our communities, and that is not only because we have the we have been more fortunate to receive education, loving parents, and food in our plates and everything, but also that sense that you belong to a community, that sense that you are part of the globe and the resources that you have. So what keeps me going is that need of that sense of responsibility, but I've been able to change that from a kind of burden that you were born with, that you're responsible to really find a very deep satisfaction, because that is where you create the connections with your kids, the connections with your community, when you are able to give back and when you're able to connect in the needs that everybody have and help them, that gives you a very deep connection to humans and to the world. And so when I wake up and then I think all the things that I need to do, like starting with my personal and family responsibilities, at the end, what keeps me going is just that smile or that sense of achievement when you make things happen. So my invitation is that instead of, is that you really question and I mean, you really do things because you want to and because you enjoy it, and that it makes a huge difference. And if you only stay on the responsibility part, then you're gonna burn out eventually. So finding and transforming the responsibility into joy and passion and connection is really what keeps me going.
Wow, that was really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. For me, at a very, I'm just being very upfront and transparent. For me, at a very visceral level, I'm just very competitive and I like to win. And you couple that with my early sense of the pursuit of justice, because I mentioned before, I grew up in the hood, and I just remember hearing my parents and family members or neighbors or relatives and them talking about, so-and-so got fired or they didn't get paid for that job, or they're being discriminated against. And, people around the table just kind of saying, well, ¿qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do? Just walk away, don't rock the boat, because we don't have a mastery of the English language, or we don't have resources, or we don't know who to go to. And I just thought early on, that didn't seem right to me. That didn't sound right to me. And really that was the beginning of me having an early sense of the pursuit of justice, and which prompted me to go to law school. And once at law school, I was taught, and then my legal experience, my legal career, I got experience zealously advocating for my client. And I see SHPE members and SHPE as my client. And I'm going to zealously advocate for SHPE members and SHPE in the Hispanic community. My nickname at the Department of Labor was Pitbull in a Skirt, because I oftentimes go for the jugular, because I like to win, but I always walk away with cleaner hands. And that, along with just experience and maturity, and admittedly, early on in my career, it was all about Raquel and Raquel's job title and, Raquel's scope of work and, scope of responsibility and how many team members and all of that. And to a certain extent that was fulfilling, but that wasn't enough. And so I eventually realized that it couldn't be, and it shouldn't be, just about me and my immediate family, and that it needed to be bigger than me. And so I'm on my second mountain. My first mountain, I think we all kind of go through that. The first mountain, I think it's okay for you to focus on yourself and focus on your career. And then the second mountain is to look around and really see, how can I be of service to others? And there's a book out there called Second Mountain by David Brooks. I highly recommend it. And you mentioned, Paula, moving from, sort of this sense of responsibility and obligation to passion and joy. And David Brooks in this book talks about really the difference between happiness and joy, and how happiness is really episodic, right? You got a new car, you got a new outfit, you went on this trip. But joy is a state of being. It's a state of mind. And so that's what I'm working towards. And I feel that I'm more able to attain joy if I'm in service of others. So is being the CEO of SHPE easy? No, it's not. It's really tough. There's all kinds of pressures and considerations. But what keeps me going every day is a sense of urgency. for SHPE members and SHPE in the Hispanic community, because you look at the socioeconomic factors, what's going on with immigration, what's going on with education, the demand for STEM, the population numbers of Hispanics and Latinos, you bring that all together. And what I have been saying, my proposition is that Hispanics are the future. We are the future imperative. And so SHPE has been doing its mission for 47 years, and there's still work for us to do. And so I have a sense of urgency, and that's what keeps me going every day, and individual SHPE members and their stories, and the fact that, you know, we're not trying to boil the ocean over here, but if one person can make one different, you know, make a difference in another person's life, then it's all worth it. And so I know that that might sound idealist, but that's what motivates me.
That's awesome. No, I really love what you two covered on passion, joy, service, and a sense of urgency. I think those are all really good things to keep everyone going every day. So moving on to the next question, what is the biggest obstacle you have had to overcome in your career or life? And we'll start with Andrea.
Thank you. So I think right now I'll go ahead and at least tackle obstacle from a career standpoint, because I think from a life standpoint, I think I'm currently in the middle of one obstacle, and I can't necessarily say that I've overcome it. I think in the next year or 2 or 3, I'll be able to speak more to that. But from a career standpoint, I think generally, you know, obviously all of us know the engineering curriculum, you know, is challenging. So I don't think my experience was any different than any of the other engineers that are on the call today. So I think for me, my big obstacle came more towards the middle of my career. And so I know that many of you guys do know me from my time at UT Austin as the director for the Equal Opportunity and Engineering program. And so I would say that, you know, I think a very big obstacle that I faced was the decision to choose to leave that position and take a risk and actually invest in myself. Again, I started out as a structural engineer, and then I definitely had the opportunity to come back to UT Austin and serve a program that actually really did a lot for me as an undergraduate student. So it was a pure joy to be able to run that program for 11 years. But as I hit kind of the midpoint of my career, and I started to realize like how much more was there for me to learn in that space, and what other ways could I contribute, I had to really kind of come to grips with the fact that it was time to take a shift and take a break and reinvest in myself. And so at that time, I decided to kind of, you know, let go of my career and go back to graduate school full time. And at that time, I moved away from Texas and went to Virginia and pursued my PhD in engineering education. And also I earned a master's in industrial systems engineering while I was there. But again, it was a very scary time to just, again, cut all ties, you know, all forms of income and to even know really was that the right decision. But in retrospect, I'm really, really glad that I did that. It was a wonderful 4 years where I could really focus on myself. I could think, reflect, again, reinvent myself, reinvest in myself, and then bring myself right back into the space that I was working in, but to be able to do it at a different level where I could continue to kind of advance the agenda that I had been focused on, which was, again, serving students that were underrepresented in engineering and helping them earn their degrees and gain those opportunities that I had that benefit of gaining access to. So I think it was pretty huge. It was a hard decision to make. And I remember, you know, being very upset about having to let go of that job. But in the end, I think it was a good decision in terms of just taking the time to reinvest in myself. As far as from a life standpoint, like I said, I think right now I'm definitely right in the middle of that, you know, as my parents are aging and as my mother is going through various types of health issues, you know, I'm currently navigating through that and figuring out how I need to alter my life and my professional trajectory to continue to support the needs of my family at this time in my life. So again, I don't think I've overcome it yet. I'm right in the middle of it. So if, you know, I'll let you know once I get through this phase of my life.
Yeah,
That's awesome, Andrea. I think a lot of us will find ourselves in that position where we want to go back to masters or we want to go pursue a masters. And I think that definitely helps us And we will probably be hearing from a few of us in the future when we have to make that decision.
Raquel, do you want to also take this question?
Sure. Just to chime in here, you know, I'll answer both simultaneously, and the reason I would do that is because my career and my life are synonymous. I very much identify with what I do in my career. And I would have to say, there have been many obstacles and hardships along the way. My career has not been this straight, you know, trajectory moving upward. It's been up and down, in and out, lots of failures. I fail every day, but what I've learned at this age, at this stage in my career, I've learned to recover more quickly. I don't marinate in my failures. And like I said, I fail every day in one way or another. You know, the biggest obstacle in my career / life right now, and certainly along the way, and I'm going to probably say something very provocative here, but it's the truth, and it's sexism, male chauvinism, gender inequality. And it's interesting that in most of my legal career, when I was a trial lawyer and litigator, you know, I've been featured in magazines, and I've sat in fireside chats and on panels, and people have asked me, oh, you know, have you been harassed, sexually harassed? Yes, I have, and I've dealt with that. I know how to deal with that. Well, have you been discriminated as, you know, in any way, like as a Latina, as a woman, as Hispanic? Not that I'm aware of until now as a CEO. And it's very disheartening because here I am at this stage in my career with the title of CEO at this age, and I'm bumping up against the male chauvinism and the sexism. And I think I have enough experience and enough training to know how to navigate that and to reframe and to defend myself when I need to. But what keeps me up at night is our young SHPEtinas, young Latinas who don't have the experience that I have, that haven't been trained in defense, right? And how to reframe and navigate sticky situations. And I have a sense of urgency. So how do we empower our SHPEtinas? How do we empower Latinas? How do we empower women? Because it is not easy, it is tough, and it is scary. And, you know, not too long ago, an executive, this was before SHPE, you know, called me a feisty Latina, and not in a good way. And I didn't know. I was stunned. I was shocked because of the context of when it was said and how it was said, and I was speechless. And I'm rarely speechless. And I had to have a conversation with one of my mentors, and he says, "Look, Raquel, you know, I'm very concerned that you're going to hold on to that and not in a good way. So you need to figure out for yourself if you're going to lean in to being a feisty Latina." And so I had to think about that. And yes, I decided I am going to lean into being a feisty Latina. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, the feisty white girl, it's a feisty Latina. And so when I have a chance to talk to my SHPEtinas, I say, you need to figure out for yourself, do you lean into that? Do you feel you need to lean into that? Say yes or no, you don't have to, and your answer can change. But that's where, you know, really knowing who you are and what your values are, your convictions, right? And those are going to guide you. But I also encourage the men in the room, the SHPE male members, support the feisty Latinas in your life, because we need your support. Don't be those jerks out there that don't even realize they're being chauvinistic. or sexist in your classroom and in your workplace. And so that's the one thing that I've grappled with, that I'm grappling with right now, but here and there. And the reason it just bothers me to my core is because my father has always made me feel invincible. And so when I bump up against someone else, and especially a male Latino who is trying to put me in my place and saying things like, hey, you need to smile more, or hey, you're trying to flex your muscles, or hey, you need to be more nurturing. When would they ever say that to a male executive? They wouldn't. And so this is my sense of urgency to empower SHPEtinas, to empower Latinas, to empower women to better navigate those situations.
No, that's
Yeah.
such a good point. Raquel, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that with us, because I think it is a big issue that we all face, and we do need more men allies. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, definitely. And you definitely jumped into our next question, which was, you know, has anyone, you know, this goes for Paula and Andrea, experienced, you know, being discriminated against because of your gender or race, and can you talk to that and how that made you feel?
Well, I can start by saying yes, 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 yes.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, yes. But the only thing that I think I have to add to what Raquel has mentioned is that just to share with you the fact, and you touch on that as well, is the awareness of being discriminated against. As I said at the beginning, I was the only woman in my class, and from that moment onwards, and I would say until recently, a few years ago, when this inclusion and diversity conversation started to happen at work, and I started reading, I realized that I wasn't crazy, that all those feelings that I had, that something wasn't wrong, all that self-doubt, all that uncomfortable situations had a name, and that was discrimination. That was not being included into the conversation. So it's really, really hard to come to this situation when you, more than hard, is like a journey that, as Raquel mentioned, we are really trying to put a name to things and to give the tools to younger generations, and even for ourselves, because we're still dealing with that, unfortunately, to really call it by the name and be able to spot and make sure that, I love the word that you say, marinated. So that is precisely what I'm dealing with right now. I mean, it's just to move on, to be able to call it how it is, to face it, and then move on. I mean, because that is what the biggest danger and the biggest impact that discrimination has is that you internalize that instead of seeing it as something from outside against you, you think is the problem is you. Yeah. So that is really my experience. And yes, I can give you many examples, but it hasn't been until recently that I realized what it was. I thought that it was my problem. I thought that it was me doing something wrong, me not being good enough. So that is what I would like to share with you. So if you feel somehow that something is not okay, that you don't have words to say it, maybe share that with somebody so you can finally call it by its name.
I think the only thing that I'll add is I'll definitely concur with the fact that I think some of these kinds of experiences I think have increased as I've progressed in my career. Again, when I think about sort of my experiences in undergrad or as a young engineer, I really don't have any of these moments that stand out as, you know, where I was feeling, you know, discriminated against because of my gender or my race. But Again, as I've moved up, and currently I serve as an assistant dean, and so as a result, the network that I'm in is, you know, circle of other assistant and associate deans. I also find that I'm you know, we as engineers, we're working in mostly male teams. Even at this level, again, the teams tend to be very heavily male. And then in addition to heavily male, I'm also dealing with kind of an international component. So not just males that are coming from the US, but men that have been educated in different places around the world. And so I would say right now, yes, I am navigating some of those experiences. And I would agree with what Raquel and Paula also said, is the fact that you kind of really need to manage the negative self-talk, right? You don't want to internalize it and say, what is it about me? But sometimes that will happen, but you really need to stop yourself, clear your thoughts, and not put it on you. The other thing I actually am starting to really figure out is some of the variations in treatment that I'm experiencing. I almost think it tends to be because it's coming from the person who's actually not comfortable with me. There's, you know, they're not comfortable. It's their level of discomfort that is actually causing this alteration of behavior. I do think that I am fortunate that within my network, I do have some other male allies that really do look at my value and my contributions and can speak to that. So again, I try to focus more on that rather than dwelling on an individual that I recognize is working through their own issues of trying to feel comfortable around me, because I may be very different than what he was raised around, or the expectations or the normalized concepts that were part of his upbringing. So again, you know, something that I would say more common in my recent career than I ever really had to deal with at the early portions of my career.
Thanks, Andrea and Paula. Those are really good points, and really good point. And, you know, managing self-talk, because I do feel like a lot of us, you know, feel like it's us that's the problem. But thanks for sharing. Our next question is for Andrea again. What is something you wish someone would have told you early in your career?
Perfect. I would say, I think people probably told me this, but maybe I never really trusted how much it would be true. But I just think that, you know, you never make the assumption that somebody is going to make decisions that are really going to benefit your own professional development, right? You really need to take lead of that. So, I mean, I think younger in my career, I would have assumed that, oh, my managers are making good choices for me. They're, you know, putting opportunities in front of me. But like I said, I don't think that you should be passive and just believing that those kinds of things will always work out. I think that you should be in charge of your own professional development and seek those new opportunities. You're going to be the best person to know when it's time to launch from one opportunity to the next. And so I wouldn't want you to wait until somebody decides that time is right for you. So again, just keep an eye out for that. Again, anticipate what you want next and when you want to make that happen. And if you start to feel that you're in a position for too long, or that next opportunity is not there, don't sit and let that happen any longer than necessary. Definitely be proactive about figuring out what's that next right step for you, and don't make the assumption that someone else will be really looking out for your best interest. I think you'll need to take charge of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll just jump in real quick, and I couldn't agree more with Andrea. You have to be the CEO of your own career. You have to own it, right? That's why, you know, people these days, and I certainly have my own personal board of directors, right? These are people, my trusted advisors, close circles of people that I trust, that, you know, sometimes when I need somebody to talk me off the ledge because I've had a bad experience or a bad day, or, you know, something went wrong, I failed in some way, I need someone to help me put this into perspective, and to always challenge me too. Just like a board of directors for a corporation is about, you know, vision and strategy and governance. You need that for your own career, and even in some aspects of your life. If I could go back and counsel my or coach my younger self, I would say that nurture relationships. a mentor told me that relationships are the currency of the workplace. And it is very true. You know, early on, my dad told me, my papi was like, hey, Raquel, you're not going to work to be everybody's best friend. You're there to be excellent at what you do. And no doubt, we all have to be excellent at what we do. You have to be an excellent engineer. I strive to be an excellent leader. But relationships do matter, meaningful relationships and nurturing those relationships, because there is truth in the adage that it's not what you do, it's who you know. And more importantly, it's who knows you. And so if you want to get ahead in your career, it is about meaningful relationships. It's not about, hey, how many, LinkedIn people do I know, connections that I have, on my social media, or how many business cards did I get? I'm probably dating myself. How many business cards did I get? And it's like, how many meaningful relationships do you have? Are you a broker of relationships, or are you being stingy and miserly with your relationships, the people in your network? Because I can tell you, I will forever be beholden to those people who introduced me to someone that I needed to know. And so, are you a broker of relationships? Are you truly nurturing those relationships? And not just on your team and in your department and at your company, but outside of SHIP, outside of Jacobs, having multiple different types of circles of people that you can call upon.
Thanks, Raquel and Andrea. Really good points on being proactive in your career. And like you said, Raquel, nurturing good relationships, expanding your network. For the sake of time, we're going to skip the last question and jump into the Q&A session. So some of you guys have left questions in the chat. Let's go. Let me see here.
We can start with one that was left on early on, and I think it goes back to what Raquel was talking about. And this question is, how would you suggest finding a career sponsor or a mentor, building those meaningful relationships? Like you said, how would you suggest about finding the right people for yourself, or, even, reaching out to them and telling them, hey, would you mind being a mentor or my sponsor?
Yeah, if I had to sort of synthesize the dynamic of those two, mentor and career sponsor, you can go out and find a mentor and ask someone to be your mentor. A career sponsor finds you, right? You earn a career sponsor by what you do, by being excellent at what you do and having an excellent character, and being a virtuous leader in what you do. So a career sponsor is someone that advocates for you. They put you in the right place in front of the right people at the right time, and they secure stretch assignments for you. I have a career sponsor who's also a mentor and a good friend, but he has aspirations for me that I don't even have for myself. How awesome is that? We all need that person in our life. Mentors advise you, career sponsors advocate for you. And I'm not aware of any situation where you can go to someone, not a real authentic one that's going to have a good outcome, where you go, hey, can you be my career sponsor? It doesn't work that way. It's almost as if someone sees what you're doing and who you are and what you're about and what your outcomes are, and they say, wow, I can get behind that person. I will put my own reputation on the line to endorse that person and to continue to endorse that person and advocate for that person. So there isn't some magic formula to go and secure a career sponsor. You can go and ask for a mentor, but you can't ask for a career sponsor. And if you have the opportunity for an executive coach, that's also a game changer. A lot of executive coaches are expensive, but they are a game changer. And I've had career coaches all along my career. They help you with specific things that you want to work on, right? We're not perfect. There are things that I want to evolve as a leader, as a woman, as a human being, and coaches, just like in a sport, a team, will help you address certain things that you need to work on, that you've identified for yourself or somebody else has identified for you. So you can go and secure a mentor, you can go and secure an executive coach, but career sponsors, those are earned, and the career sponsor will come to you.
Yeah, I really like the point you made, how mentors advise and sponsors advocate. Really good point. Paula or Andrea, do you guys want to add on to this question?
I'd like to add two things that to bring some reality perspective on how it works. And those two things are the time frame and the portion of visibility that you need to work on. It doesn't take place overnight. I mean, it's really important that when you are in a point of your career where you are feeling that you're not getting those opportunities or that you're not getting the support that you need, it's important that you think that it's something that is not going to happen overnight, and that you just need to be constantly performing according to what you want to achieve, right? And expecting it to happen really fast, it sets you for frustration and not for success. The other thing is that you need to make sure that you have visibility, but not visibility without a purpose, because that is more vanity. You need to have a purpose to increase your visibility. But as Raquel mentioned, they find, I mean, the career sponsor finds you, but that is in an ideal situation, right? If you're not visible and if you are not constant and patient, that doesn't happen. So you need to make sure that you find a purpose that increases your visibility. And so it's not just being, kind of showcasing what you are and all the time, but find some kind of a purpose. For instance, the employee networks like Enlace, that was for me my visibility opportunity. I was really passionate about helping the Latino community within my firm, and that definitely played a role in increasing my visibility within the firm. And eventually, but I'm talking about like 5 years, I'm not talking like one day that happened, and it required a lot of effort. It wasn't something that it was just easy. But I found my purpose, and that increased my visibility, and I was patient enough eventually. And now I'm seeing that is paying off in my career development. So those two components are important to keep in mind.
Really good point on the importance of visibility. For the sake of time, we're probably only going to do one more question. I think this is a good one. At what point did you decide to focus in supporting diversity and inclusion?
And we'll start with Andrea this time.
Okay, thank you. So I think for me, when I was an undergraduate at UT Austin, again, my involvement in SHPE as a member, as an officer, that was kind of really the first opportunity to start really giving back to my community. Even as I progressed as a young engineer into the companies that I worked for, back then was MW Kellogg. I was the lead for a committee called Discover Engineering, and we did outreach to the middle school and high school students there in the Houston area. So that's really where I did it more in my with my free time. But after I earned my PE license, and again, I was looking for like, what am I going to do next, is when I actually made that pivot, and I had that opportunity to go back to UT Austin and do that work 100%. And so that was my primary business. And again, it was just a good fortune that I was the lucky one that actually got picked for that job. I will say that right now, I still do diversity and inclusion work, but I actually do it in a way where I'm not the diversity inclusion person. I'm actually an assistant dean for student success. I focus on our overall operations, but anything and everything that I do has diversity inclusion in the back of my mind. And so what I am trying to do is, rather than address these issues from the outside, I really think about doing it from embedding procedures and policies internally through our operations. So again, that way we're not outsourcing diversity inclusion to an extra group to take care of. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Andrea. So for the sake of time, we're going to move on so we can wrap up. So these are our upcoming SHPE Austin events. We have Noche de Ciencias happening on December 17th. And we also have a toy drive going on up until the 14th. Once again, thank you to the speakers. Really good conversation and advice for all of us. Appreciate your time. I know we are all busy. And thanks everyone for joining in. Feel free to contact any of us if you have any other questions. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.